Hey now, find the fun, got to find the fun, no choice but to find the fun. Mandate, find the fun. Welcome everybody to today's webinar, the Basic Splash Training. Thanks for joining me on a Sunday, Thursday, this 21st day of November, the year 2019, for what's being described by many in the national media as a tour de force webinar experience. I have to agree with them. We have an action-packed agenda. Before we talk about it, let's do a little housekeeping. All right, so about your presenter, here I am, Director of Education at Splash. You can see my interests. You can see my fun fact. So to humanize myself a bit, here's me on the New York City subway a couple of weeks ago with my new boxer puppy, Leo. Some shameless plug. So to continue your education journey with Splash, yeah, we have webinars. We're doing them all the time. We also have lots of e-courses. So I'll show you in a little bit the Splash Education homepage where you can engage with all of our content from very beginner stuff all the way through to advanced topics, including design, integrations, and on-site. Oh yeah, added bonus. If you take a photo of yourself with your certificate and send it over to us, we'll send you a Starbucks gift card. Another one, Splug, Splash user groups. These are in-person meetups led by our customers for our customers. Go to splashthat.com/community and check out a group meeting by you. We'd love to have you, or they'd love to have you, I should say. Okay, let's talk turkey, the game plan for today, the agenda. First thing is, this is the basics training. We're gonna keep it simple, stupid, if I could borrow from the office. We're only doing basics. So some of your questions, a bit more advanced, we'll get into those. But what we're learning today are some very simple but empowering tactics that will follow you throughout your entire career using Splash. And my main goals, one, this is a scene from Annie. I might be dating myself, but when she shows up at Daddy Warbucks' mansion and she sings, I think I'm gonna like it here. We want you to get comfortable. We want you to feel good in this platform. We want you to feel empowered. And then the second one, ready to execute, right? We want you to feel inspired so that the next time an event comes up, you're gonna hit the ground running with us. How does that sound? All right, so in terms of our agenda, chat. If you have any questions, please use the chat. We have experts from the education team monitoring it. They'll also surface some of your questions to me so I can call them out. So put them in the chat. I have also gathered all of your questions that you submitted through the RSVP process. We will speak to those towards the end. We have plenty of time. So check out our agenda. We're gonna make this very much objective-based. I'll show you what we mean. We have some goals to accomplish together. But item 9 on there, I'm hoping we have at least 20 minutes for question and answer today. All right? So thanks for submitting all those questions. They were remarkable. So our objectives, our game plan for when we log into the platform. The first one, it's the one everyone comes to us with, right? Create a beautiful on-brand event page for a happy hour for our clients and prospects. So event page, the website people are going to visit, that's big, but I want you to hold me accountable. Every what we call touch point, the mobile view, the emails we send, the registration form, the social share experience, they have to look amazing, all right? That's our #1 objective today. Here's our style guide. So we joke that education here gives you the tools to be great. That's my hypothetical brand in this example. So the branded event page that we create together has to mirror my brand guidelines that my designer provided for me. Additional requirements, we're gonna use a brand approved theme. We're gonna highlight some featured attendees on the event site, and we've gotta figure out a way to create excitement around the event, get people wanting to hit that RSVP button. Next up, we're gonna collect information from our guests in the form of registrations, right? A smart RSVP form that asks guests the right questions. So few requirements, we're allowing our attendees to collect +1s. However, since this is a place of business, we want to get names, emails, and company info for all those +1s. We also want to give our event organizers on the tools to be great side the option to decline the invitation. So that's something we need to set up together today. confirmation messaging. This is going to be really straightforward. We want people to feel really good after that RSVP is submitted. We also want to give them that option from the confirmation to initiate that cancellation if they decide they can't make it. We're going to upload a guest list together because we're going to be sending an invite. But a pro tip to make my life easier, we're going to upload a list that organizes our entire Splash attendee list. So it's easy to report on activity by client and prospect. So I'm going to show you a pro tip for doing that. That's going to be a big one. Number 5, we're going to send out some email communication. It has to be on brand. It has to get our customers excited. And of course, it has to look amazing. And finally, after the invitation is out and our guests are RSVPing, and maybe so many people are RSVPing, we have to turn some away. We want to be able to pull a guest list report that is organized by all of our important segments, all our different guest personas, clients, prospects, VIPs, investors, you name it. And our final objective, we're going to try to give you those tools to be great. You submitted lots of great questions. I believe you're continuing to submit them. So we saved lots of time at the end to answer all of them. All right, I think it's time. Here's the agenda. We're going to be keeping this pinned up at all times so we can refer back to it. Let's get into the platform. Okay. Okay, as mentioned, splashthat.com/education. After, check out our courses here. Here's our home page. This is where the login process is initiated. And upon logging in, I am in my instance of Splash, the iconic Tools to Be Great events dashboard here. You can see I've already worked on quite a few events. What we're going to do today, as promised, we're going to create a new event together. Where I want to start this, I'm going to go into my themes library here. This is where all of my branded templates live. Right now I have 2 of them. One is a conference theme. This is a bit more robust. It's going to have speakers, an agenda. It's going to have an FAQ section. It's going to have sponsors. There's a time and place for that. But for a client happy hour, I'm going to keep this super simple with my poster theme. There is a bit of content I'm going to want to add to it, but I think it's a really nice starting point. So let's take a look at this together so we can get a feel for what we're actually creating. Nice layout. It's got my great purple branding on there. It's got an image. I think this is going to do the trick. So let's create an event together using this one. I'm going to hit create event, and now Splash is going to ask me for some simple information. So I'm going to call this the Tools to Be Great Happy Hour. Notice my domain down below. This is the URL that I'll be directing traffic to. A lot of our customers know that you can use your own domain. That could be a vanity URL. In this case, we'll just use the Splash one. I'm going to select my event type. This is a really useful tactic for reporting on our events later. Of course, it's the holiday season, Home Alone 2 top of mind. We're doing this at the Plaza Hotel on December 23rd. And I'm going to hit create event. So what this is going to do, Splash is going to take those details I just entered, and it's going to marry them with my event page template. And you can see in the middle of the screen, all those guest-facing components, we call them touchpoints, are being created on the fly. The event page, the share experience, the registration form, confirmations. This is the menu I'm going to use to edit each aspect of that guest-facing experience. Now, this wouldn't be a Zach training if I didn't go into settings first. This is where I always start. It's not the most exciting part of the platform, but I'll tell you, this is where the bodies are buried in terms of I've lost a lot of good event marketers, people who zoomed through that event creation form and didn't enter the right time, right? Or forgot the venue. Always come in here and review everything. This is where I make sure everything is perfect, because this is going to impact some seriously important parts of the guest-facing experience. So I review everything here. This is where I would set my capacity if I have one. If I'm doing a capacity, I could activate a wait list. So key registration features are activated here. The other place I want to show you, this comes up quite a bit, of course, is a VIP happy hour. We can make this a private event if we need to. We could restrict this to guest list only. We could limit one RSVP per email address, If we really have some sensitive stuff going on, we could actually lock off the entire page using various password and email protection screens. So as a rule of thumb, I always come in here, I do a clean sweep of my event information, my privacy settings. I'll even take a look at metadata because I am obsessed with my calendar invites and making sure they're accurate. These are all ways we can kind of control the guest experience before we even start touching the design tool. So that's just a best practice there from years in the biz. All right, so let's take a look at our agenda and see how we're doing. Pardon my scroll here. Okay, we've created the event page. Let's start designing. We've already hit item 3, which is configuring the settings. We're doing good. So I'm going to jump over to our happy hour, and the most notable touch point is always going to be our event page. So I'm going to click into this. Now, if I remember from my objectives, yeah, we had to create something that looked amazing. That was definitely one of them. I'm guaranteeing you it was an astronaut theme, so we're probably going to have to make an adjustment there. And we also said we want to create a buzz, right? That might require us to add more content, maybe like a countdown block, or maybe some great imagery, or maybe those featured attendees that were part of our requirements. So let's do that. One cool thing to note. Let's take a look at our theme settings to the right and see what comes under the hood here. So my branded fonts preloaded in. I'm not burning any calories thinking about those. They're there. As well as my purple color palette that we saw earlier, right? Now, something cool about the Tools to Be Great brand, it's got some alternate colors. Now, I'll admit I get in trouble pretty often for overusing accent colors, but since it's just us today, maybe we'll do it. So loaded into my theme, few different options I could toggle on that use my accent colors, depending on the vibe I'm going for. I think I'm going to stick with the iconic purple, but just know there's flexibility there. Next thing to know, everything on this page is just for me to get started. So I think the most profound way to update any event page aesthetic is through a great cover image, something like this to the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click into my cover block and go to that image right here. Click on the image, and here's my opportunity to upload a new one. I'm going to hit change. If you have a great image, upload it here. If you don't, we integrate with Giphy. We also integrate with a great company called Unsplash, no relation to us. This is a free high-resolution image repository that allows you to search for great assets. So I'm going to search for party here. Scroll down. Maybe it would be great if there's something with like a little bit of a purple vibe going in there to match what's going on my event page. Seeing a couple, I dig this one. I'm selecting this one right here. And you can see that changes everything up in a pretty substantial way. I'm feeling good. Now, in terms of text, super easy. I'm going to click into this. Anywhere that I need to edit text, I'm just typing on the page. If I want to adjust the font size, it's here. I'm adjusting my units. I have my colors preloaded in so I can't deviate from my brand guidelines, right? There are some safeguards. I know I like to operate without a restrictor, but there are some safeguards so I don't go completely rogue. So imagery, huge impact. Text, we need to update that. We need to play with the colors and sizing a bit. How do we build some extra excitement? It's through a concept called our block library. So this page did not come with a lot of content. It could be used for quick execution, right? I want to add some more stuff to it. By hitting this square plus button down here, or in my layout tab, I am able to open the block library. And what I want to do here is I'm going to add a countdown block. I think that might be a good tactic for building a buzz. So I'll find a countdown block that I like. How about this one? And click into it. In doing so, that has just added some new content on the page for me that's pretty versatile. We'll get to designing that in a moment. The other block that I really would like to add, maybe two more, I want to add a featured guests part, and I think a speaker block might be a helpful way of doing that. So I'm going to add a speaker block to my page so I can upload some headshots. In addition to that, I'm also going to upload a footer. So I'm going to go into my social category, and find a footer block. At navigation, I'm going into my footer area. Social, that's what I was looking for. And I'm going to add this big one here with a headline. Awesome. To the right, I'm just going to take my social footer, drag that down below. Let me make sure I'm definitely adding my speakers. I might have clicked a little quickly there. So let's add a speaker block together. There we go. All right. So we have our cover area with image. Now we have a beautiful countdown here. What I'm going to do, I want to update that background a bit. I'm going to click into it. By hitting that one click, if I hit change, I could actually change the background color here. So I'm going to change the image. I'm going to search for party again. And I'm going to grab that really cool party image we initially selected. Now, something cool about this, I could make it a fixed position countdown. So as I scroll, it stays pinned. I really like that effect. So I'm going to keep that. And then I'm going to drill into my countdown elements here and just make the white text so it really jumps out and nobody can miss it. So I'm going to hit the only numbers option and update my font color to white. Looking good. We'll do the same thing for days as well. Okay. Scrolling on down, we have our speakers here. Change up my background color on this. The black. We'll go with a big prominent guests of honor section here, or featured guests, featured attendees. We only have 2 of them, so I'm going to kill these 2. If I had more, I would hit this green plus button to add additional folks. And this is going to be really easy for us. So I'm just going to come here and I'm going to upload an image. So using the image upload function, I will come into my speaker category and find an image of myself. Now, this is a bit of an awkward image. So what I'm going to do is use the inline cropping feature to really focus in on my mug. Turns out I'm wearing the same shirt as my speaker image. How about that? And we'll do the same thing. We'll upload one other person here. We'll upload Allie. Looking good. So now I just come in here and update my names. Get people excited about these VIPs who are going to be in attendance. Maybe for our names, we'll make them nice and big. We'll switch over to the heavier font. There we go. It's looking good. And as a final touch, we have this social footer here. So I'm going to make this footer a little bit bigger. I promised I was going to keep it simple, but I'm going to use a slightly more advanced feature called padding to add some breathing room to this. And then on the bottom for my hashtag, you know what I'm going with. Tools to be great. We'll make this nice and big. Now we have a pretty nice event page here, right? So that just took us a few minutes to do that together. I didn't have any assets. I found some. All I had were a couple speaker photos, but I went from a very simple poster style event, which would have been just fine to use, into something that's very content rich. Okay, let's save this and preview it from the guest experience. Looking good. We'll check out our registration form. I like it. And yeah, we're looking good here. Okay. Navigate on back. And continue ahead with our agenda. So we have created the page. We've used the branded template. We've configured the settings, excuse me, and we've designed a pretty nice experience. Now it's time to build that registration form. This is how we start collecting information from our guests. So we're back on the touchpoint menu. We've nailed our event page. I kind of use this as a checklist of sorts to know what I want to hit. We're going to go into our registration form next. So we mentioned that we want to allow guests to decline the invitation. That means RSVP now. And we also said we want to allow guests to RSVP for a +1, and that +1 needs a company name. and the name of the actual person too. So I'm going to use the add question button here, and Splash is going to make this super easy for me. I'm going to add the are you attending button. This will give folks the option to decline. Now, something I'm kind of a stickler for, I always drag this up on the form so it's a bit higher, and I only like to ask guests who are coming for those optional questions, right? So I'll come to my company name option right here. I'll hit the logic editor and say, only show this question if are you attending equals yes. And I'll do the same for job title as well. This is a mandatory, but I think our folks who are taking the time to decline deserve the courtesy of not having to fill up a really robust form in order to say no, right? So if they say yes, there we go. If they say no, and I realized, let me update my logic. That should be for yes. There we go. Cool. So yes, we get those both. No, we don't. Now the other option we're going to do, we mentioned we're collecting plus ones. All guests get at least 1 + 1. So we'll add a bring the guest option. Update the language. Would you like to bring a +1? And again, we're going to tie this to conditional logic. This is only going to show up if the person is coming, right? Nice. So we have our first name, our last name, and our email. The cherry on top is going to be, can we collect that company name from our guest? So what I'll do is I'm going to come down to my guest set of questions here and use this little plus button. This allows me to begin building out a separate question track just for +1s. So I'm going to grab the company name question here. I could add job title if I want. I could add whatever I'd like. I'm going to make that required. Fantastic. So now a no response will garner just a simple first name, last name, email. A yes response, I'm collecting all the information from my primary guest, including their +1 and the company name of their +1. Wonderful. What I enjoy about the form, especially with conditional logic, is you can test if you set up the logic correctly without having to fully preview the page. It's a live editor, so you can do your quality assurance on the form right then. All right, we've set up our form. Just taking a look at the questions. Tyler Lobo asks, can you add calendar invites of sync attendee calendars and reminder and confirmations? Yeah, so we're getting to that next, Tyler, because we're talking about confirmations next. Any email sent from the platform is going to allow us to attach a calendar invite, and the on-screen confirmation message will give the guests the opportunity to add the event to the calendar right in the moment. So now that I've hit the event page, I've hit the registration form, we're going to go to our confirmations, and if we remember our requirement from earlier, we need to set it up in such a way that guests are able to cancel their response right from the information. I really do need a true count of my guests for this happy hour. So let's pop into the confirmations touch point. It's right here. And you can see, because my template's already been configured nicely, the language is preset. My add to calendar button will always be there. Even my email is set. Now, a couple of event-specific updates I might want to make. I'll attach a calendar invite to my email. I'll attach a QR code too. This would allow me to scan QR codes using the Splash Host app right from my guest's device, or if they're actually printing out the QR code. So I'll hit save here. Now, for my cancellation button, I'm going to go into the design part of the confirmation email. And instead of the visit the page, which I could keep, I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm actually going to add a new type of button using this right here. That's called a cancel button. Click on this. Let's make it that tools to be great purple. And now any guest who opens this email has the option to click this button. It will transport them to a simple interstitial screen, and that will allow them to cancel their response. That will decrease my guest count by 1, opening up a slot for somebody else, especially if we have a capacity. save my changes, and we've set up our confirmations, and we've completed the objective of giving our guests the option to decline an RSVP. Wonderful. Okay, let's take a look at our agenda. Okay, so now we're getting ready to approach the finish line of, we've done a phenomenal job creating a beautiful page. It's branded, it's building excitement. Our settings are locked in, our registration form is wired for success. We have our calendar invites and our confirmations. We're allowing guests to decline their RSVPs. At this point, time permitting, I'd probably be doing pretty rigorous quality assurance, sending out my page to others on my team so they could do a sanity check for me. We'll smash cut ahead a bit. Time to upload a guest list so that we could send out an invitation, and for number 8, a little later on, set ourselves up big picture so we can report on our guest list with some nuance and sophistication. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this tab right here. It is a Google Sheet. I know a lot of you use Excel or Numbers. Any spreadsheet platform will do. I just wanted to use this one because it's conveniently in my browser tab. So here's how it works. Just label your columns, first name, last name, email, company, job title. I'm sure you have this information. My trick for you, my power move, again, add a list column. I add this to every spreadsheet I upload, and you name what guest list segment everybody belongs to, right? Why do I do this? Well, it activates 2 really amazing features for me. It's going to, 1, make it really easy to report on these segments as the RSVPs and check-ins start rolling in. And 2, it's going to make it really easy to email these folks by guest list segment. So if my clients and prospects need a different email than my investors and VIPs, I don't want to be burning a ton of calories doing VLOOKUPs and exporting and re-importing into Splash. I just want to be able to select a list and fire off the communication. So what we do after we've prepared our guest list, we download this to a CSV file format. I'm just going to name it Happy Hour. I believe that's in my documents now. And now we'll go back to our event and we'll just sit on that for a moment because we're going to work on our email. Okay, so we have our list prepared. We're going to build an email, and then we're going to send out the email to the list by way of uploading it together. So I'm going to hit the Start Creating button, and wow, what a relief. There's some templates here for me. So again, a big part of having great themes in Splash, as enterprise customers do, you have these themes that come locked in with those preloaded designs, but also email templates. We don't want you reinventing the wheel every time, right? So I'm going to select our invitation template, and you can see it's starting me out with an image. I have some personalization and dynamic tags here that are going to pull in all that event information we loaded together, so I don't have to retype that in. I've got my call to action button in here, my from field, and my subject line. We're looking pretty good. Now, some subtle adjustments I might want to make. I might want to change my border color up to that purple. I might want to get rid of the astronaut here, so I'll swap that out for a party image or something exciting. So we'll go to Giphy and we'll search for party. See if we have anything that looks amazing. Yeah, I'm digging this. There we go. Yeah, you can upload GIFs to your emails, your confirmations, your event page. Anywhere an image asset is accepted in Splash, a GIF will do the trick. Cool. Scrolling on down, we're looking good. Personally, I like to pull the call to action up a bit higher, so I'm going to do that. And the other thing I'm going to do, view page, not so exciting. RSVP now. I'm a little forceful here, but we'll go with it. RSVP now. So that's looking pretty good too. One thing I always like to do, I'm a little old school, I'm going to add a map to this thing. And we'll just pull in the Google map there. Nice. Tyler, as you mentioned earlier, we could attach a calendar invite to this here too. So if this was a reminder email, I might add the calendar invite again. I may even take a step further and including another cancel button, just so I can always give people who can't make it the ability to change their mind. I'm also going to autofill my RSVP form. So what does that mean? Well, when someone clicks this button here, because I uploaded their name, email, company, and job title, that's going to autofill that into the RSVP form for them, making it so they can get through the RSVP process that much more efficiently, and also make it feel a bit more personal. Speaking of personal, one last thing I want to do here, I'm going to go into my personalization tags menu. I'm going to grab the personalization tag for first name, and I'm going to put that into my subject line. So now instead of it saying you're invited, it's going to say, hey, Zach, you're invited, and I'm not going to miss that. Wonderful. Here's our send test button. I'll send a test to myself. It will say testing in the subject line, so you don't scare yourself. You could send as many tests as you'd like to as many people on your team as you'd like. I recommend this button becoming a friend of yours. All right. Next up, recipients. So we prepared our list. We downloaded it into our spreadsheet. Again, this is what it looks like, and what I want you to be extra mindful of, that list column. That is going to unlock some magic, if I could borrow some wisdom there from Oreos. Add recipients, upload CSV, go to my documents, and grab that. Did I put it in documents or downloads? I forget where it was. Or was it desktop? I'm doing too many things at once here. There it is, desktop. Select it, 33 rows, 6 columns. Check that out. We're mapping the fields. Maybe I need to have more fun in my life, but I get a ridiculous amount of satisfaction from when those fields automatically map like that. Isn't that beautiful? Hit save and exit. And now give it a 10 Mississippi count. We're going to see the indicator down here. And this is where we'll get the 100% status that our lists have been uploaded. Once that's taken place, and there they are, we can go to review. And as I did today when I scheduled the webinar emails out to you, I would probably want to schedule this out at a custom date and time. Whenever I feel you're most likely to open it, right? One thing I do before scheduling or sending though, I'm reviewing my calendar invite for accuracy, my event summary, my form, everything. This is my one last opportunity, even if I've done some pretty rigorous quality assurance, to make sure everything's on point. Again, even me, who's maybe a little hyper-vigilant to the point that it drives me a little nutty, even I've made mistakes in sending out invites with the wrong date and time because I was moving so quickly. So we've added this screen to give you that last opportunity to check your work. All right, I'm not going to send this out, but what I want to do next is our last thing, pull a guest list report. So in this scenario, we've sent out our invite. What I'm actually going to do, so I'm not going to, it's a hypothetical send. I want to bring you into our guest list. So this is where we're going to start reporting on our RSVP activity. Let's look at some beautiful things that have occurred here. One, remember that list segment thing I keep yapping about? Zach, why are you adding this thing? Here's why. When somebody's asking you for a report on how many clients do we need to follow up with, or how many prospects do we anticipate being in the room, we filter by that segment here. It's a wonderful thing. When we're on site using the host app for check-in, we can report at any moment on how many clients are in the room and who we're still waiting to see. Additionally, when I start pulling my guest list exports, all of those columns that I uploaded are going to be there by default. That's super helpful too. And another thing, if I want to filter by any piece of information, company name, for example, hey, how many people from Wonka Industries have registered for the event? Again, I'm not exporting out of Splash, filtering, tallying things up manually. I could do it all right here. So it's just making my life a lot easier. So when it comes to exec level reporting or account owner reporting, I could select these lists. And when I'm exporting, I can actually export this out to a stakeholder and say, here's your most recent snapshot of everyone from this company that's RSVP'd. Okay. We have checked off a pretty comprehensive list of stuff, and we did it pretty quickly too, right? We did that in about a half hour. We created a beautiful event page, designed a compelling experience, set up a registration form that collects plus ones. We fine-tuned our confirmations. We uploaded a list that has some pretty special columns in there. We created an invitation. We include some personalization tactics in there, and we pretended to send an invitation. And because of the work we did on step number 6, it's going to be easy as possible. Full guest list report. We've done a great job. So let me look through the questions. I have some preloaded ones that we're going to take a look at that you submitted, and I also have some that came through on the chat. So we'll try to do a mix of both. All right. Question and answer. So some that came through the chat. Will this webinar be available once it concludes? Alexis Access, absolutely Alexis. We will be distributing the recording of this session probably early next week in the thank you emails. So be on the lookout for that. Nicoya asks, copies of the intro deck get emailed to us too. Yeah, I mean, I anticipate people digging those Annie references, so we'll make those available as well. Okay, that'll be part of it. Can access to Splash be controlled through SSO? Yep, this is something that we are able to do as part of an enterprise package. We can work with you to set up SSO so that only folks from your single sign-on portal are able to access the platform. Marie asked, will it move a person who canceled the RSVP to not attending? That's exactly right, Marie. So if somebody cancels, it changes their status. And in doing so, it moves them to your not attending list. It will actually add them to a special canceled custom list. So it's easy to filter by on your actual cancellations. And also it will update your total attending count by subtracting one spot. So if it's an event where capacity is tight and we're talking about a wait list, super useful. See, oh wow, we got a loaded question. Someone wants to see a test version of an email. The question is, do I want to upload, or excuse me, do I want to open up my inbox in a live training? That would scare a lot of people, but I operate at pretty much a zero inbox at all times, so let's do it in a little bit. All right, let's get to some pre-submitted questions. First one, Haiti Acts, teach me everything. Mission accomplished. I think we got through a pretty rigorous agenda. Haiti, hopefully you are inspired to execute and feeling comfortable as our initial goals set for us in the beginning. Let me know if you're not. Elsa asked, can I resend the same exact invite again and again? This is a great question. So let's go into our email here, and let me add myself really quickly. Add myself, and I'll send myself an invitation, one-off, just so we can get a feel for how efficient the quick send process could be. So there I am on the list, and let's send Zach an email, right? Because we know when we're dealing with the different people in our organization, it's likely that there's always going to be new people who want to be invited, and we're not going to get our full invite list the moment we ask for it. So if we send this thing out, just give it a second, there's going to be a quick function for resending. So we'll send it out to Zach. After that email is resent, there's a quick action here that allows you to send to additional guests. It streamlines the process. It won't throw you into the design editor. It just allows you to add your recipients and fire immediately. So yeah, you'll find yourself using this quite a bit. And something cool about it is for every email you send within that campaign, you'll be able to unfurl and see how each individual send performed in terms of opens, clicks, and bounces, all that good stuff. Okay, back to our questions. Caroline, this is a power user right here. Caroline asked me, can we go over tracking links from splash page to splash page? Not sure if that makes sense, but I can also explain it. I know exactly what you're talking about, Caroline, because I saw your amazing user group presentation. But let me break this down a bit. I include a quick little presentation here about it. So amazing feature in Splash is called tracking links. These make it unbelievably easy to measure impact. So what does that mean? You create an individual link, an individual version of your event page link within the analytics tab of Splash. I'm gonna do this with you. You tell people to use that link when promoting your event. And then you get to view the results and see the number of RSVPs that came from that source, who RSVP'd from that source, and the number of page views. So go to your analytics tab on your event page. Advanced tracking is the sub tab. Create your link. This takes moments and it works with vanity URLs too. And one of the beautiful things about this, I always talk about it, you could filter your guest list by those tracking links to see who came from the sources. So Caroline, for your question, yeah, what you would do for your event, like if you wanted to see if this event page that you're working on is generating traffic for other places, you would just go into your analytics tab, go into advanced tracking, create your link, and then you would use this link on the different event pages that you're creating in Splash that you're promoting it from. Now, for our audience, the more common use case is to give this to different relationship owners or to use these links on social media. But if you're promoting your events on other Splash pages, you can create a tracking link, put it on that Splash page as a link, and you will be able to see the traffic that's being generated. Pretty remarkable. Okay. Siobhan asks, sometimes changes I make on desktop are not reflected on mobile. What might I be doing wrong? A little bit more advanced here. So the way this works is that your pages are built, your templates are built to be mobile responsive. In other words, what you're doing on desktop should translate well to mobile in terms of size, different sizes of text and images scaling. Having said that, sometimes you make a change and you might take a look at our mobile editor here and say, you know what, Zach, I want the headline on mobile to be a little bit smaller, or this description text, I could use that a little bit smaller on mobile too. Using this editor, you are able to fine tune your tablet and mobile views. So you can make individual decisions based on the screen you're looking at. So in this example, I would just come to my phone editor and I would maybe scale this down to like 1 instead of 1.2 and take our headline down to maybe 2.5, right? So that's a very simple example of how you can fine tune your mobile experience, but this does allow you to exercise an extra level of control over that. Okay. Other questions that we have here? How do you translate for European markets? Wow, Lisa, phenomenal question. So worth noting, when we're talking about translations, very easy to do in Splash. We could translate just about any piece of language that is showing up in the platform. Now, I said worth noting because the tools themselves are English only at this point, but every aspect of the guest-facing experience, whether it's the event page, the share card, the registration form, your emails, your confirmations, everything can be translated to a different language just using the simple text editing tool. Where the nuances really come into play, and I mean this in a good way, registration form. So you're able to come into even previously hard-coded things like first name, last name, email, and relabel them. But taking it a step further, you're able to customize each of your error messages. So any error message in here can be overridden with a different language. So what I recommend doing for the users who are really thinking about scaling out with different templates for different languages, prepare an event page with all of the languages that you want. Update the registration form, update the email templates, update the confirmations, right? When you're done with that, you have now created a blueprint for others. You would go into your event page after all those languages have been updated, and then you could save your work as a new theme. You would call it happy hour Italian or happy hour Spanish. And then you could share that with others within your organization so that they are benefiting from all the extra work you did up front. That's how this scales, by program leaders and thought leaders setting up themes, that's our fancy word for templates, so others can benefit from their work. Great question. Okay, Jacob, how to create hubs? I am a huge proponent of creating a hub using a hub theme when I have one. I could show you really quickly how to create a hub just using our more advanced design tool. For the audience who's getting new to Splash, what is a hub? A hub is a single landing page where multiple events are discovered. So in this example, this is my happy hour page. I can leverage this. I could hide the RSVP button if I wanted to, and probably hide some of these other content blocks. And instead, what I would do is I would add a empty block, just an empty section of my page. We'll call it a building block. And I will make that building block have a purple background, and I'll make it really big using the padding feature for us. This is just me operating quickly. And then Jacob, what we have here is this is using our Designer Pro tool. If you hit this blue plus button, you could add what's called a hub element to your splash page. Now again, if you have a hub template as part of your enterprise package, you'll just use that to create the event. If you don't, this is the path to building one. Now you use the add event button right here. You select the events that you would like to showcase on your hub. You hit the publish button, and that will create those individual event listings in the forms of dynamic tiles. We call them hub cards. Then I would come in here, maybe change the background of my hub card to have a nice white background instead. Let me just do that really quickly. So you can see these, and they'll pop a little bit more for us. And now, yeah, in a matter of moments, and these are all very, very much designable, I'm just giving you a quick look, you have a hub. So I'd probably add a headline here that says like upcoming events, but yeah, there is not a huge path ahead of you if you want to create a simple calendar where some events or all of your events become discoverable. Wow, how can using Splash save me time? Well, I think we saw a few different ways, right? And depends how you're thinking about it. So on one hand, one can argue, just by having access to a tool in which we have predefined templates, we call them themes, go back to those really quickly, that could save me a lot of time, right? Because instead of rethinking this from the beginning every time, loading in my branding, my colors, fonts, my imagery, my logos, my button styles, I have something with all that stuff, and I could plug and play. That alone could save me several hours. A few other ways that we could think about: email templates, those are a big time saver. But there's also concepts like what we just saw when we're talking about the languages. Creating something amazing, saving as a theme, and sharing with others. We can do things where we're saving custom content blocks to our own library so we could use them again and again. There's lots of great tactics that you can use to save yourself time. Maybe I should do a webinar on that. One other thing worth noting that saves a lot of people a lot of time, if they're using our integrations products, example, connecting Splash to Salesforce, you can quietly save yourself hundreds of hours a year of manual reporting by virtue of your Splash instance being connected to your CRM or system of record. So integrations don't just do wonderful things from a data perspective, but they streamline our reporting in a pretty substantial way. So yeah, lots of different ways to think about it, and maybe we'll do a whole time-saving session in the future. Keith asks, are you able to create surveys or collect post-event feedback? Yeah, Keith, the beautiful thing about any splash page is that it's got lots of super useful goodies for you to leverage. What do I mean? One, you have a tool for creating beautiful websites. And two, every page you create has the ability to collect information, right? You can put a form on your page, typically used for collecting RSVPs, but can be used for just about anything. Surveys, intake, you name it. And layering on even more so, we have confirmations, right? So someone submits your survey, we could send them a branded confirmation with a link to a discount code or a website. And then we have the guest list behind the scenes that makes it super easy to report on everyone that submitted the survey. So we use these all the time. Let me see if I could pull up for you a really quick example of one I've done. I'm working in a different tab here. See if I could just pull up a quick example. I got one. I'll resume the share. So we hosted a workshop at our old office a couple years ago. We hosted it on Splash for RSVPs. We also did our post-event survey in Splash using a beautiful inline form like this. So while we are not a true survey tool, we're not putting SurveyMonkey out of business anytime soon, you can collect all this data. It could be super organized. It could sync to your desired places, Salesforce, CRMs, and you could trigger great confirmation messaging as a result. So yeah, very handy tool, especially when you're popping this link into your post-event thank you emails. Great question, Keith. Marie asked, why can't we duplicate pages? What happens on the back end that prevents that? So you can duplicate. It is among the most popular features in all of Splash to duplicate pages, right? What might be happening in your case, Marie, is one of two things. One, you have a freemium account. We do not allow freemium users to duplicate pages. It's an enterprise-only feature. Or you may be in a Splash organization where your program leader, for whatever reason, does not want duplication to be a function that you use, and therefore it's been disabled. We do not disable that feature for anybody by default. So it would have to be either someone decided it or you're using a freemium tool. If it's something else, reach out to us, okay? We're here for you. Tyler, there you are again. What are best practices for capping event sizes and defaulting RSVPs to waitlist? So I'm glad you asked. Let's take a look. This function, Tyler, and others, is controlled in your event settings. We touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but worth noting, we can set our capacity here and activate our waitlist here. So my best practices for this, I hate, my biggest pet peeve is when someone asks a question and they go, it depends. But it kind of depends on what your historic attrition rates are for RSVPs. Like I know for a webinar like this one, it's probably going to be about 50 to 60% of people who register aren't going to show. So I'll program that accordingly. Your different event types, you're probably going to rely on historical data. So you'll activate that here, and you can activate the waitlist using this function. The other thing I always stress with waitlists is it is more than anything an exercise in messaging, right? When somebody is added to your waitlist, that can be a moment of anxiety, right? They want to come. So what I would recommend doing is in your confirmations messenger, make sure you're giving your waitlist folks a very thoughtful on-page confirmation and an even more thoughtful email confirmation if you'd like to. Some people disable the email, so they think it's overkill. It's just a touch point that you might want to consider. Eastview Mall asks, how do I add partner logos to my event page? A lot of templates will come pre-loaded with options for partners. If you do not have one, I would go into your block library, go to the sponsors block section, and now you have a treasure trove of different logo layouts here. So let's add one together, just like so. And you can see this is for a multi-tiered sponsor, and you can add as many as you'd like, just like that. Hopefully that answered your question. A few minutes left. How do you move elements horizontally on the page, Mara? I saved a difficult question for the end because there's a lot of different paths for taking this. So I said at the beginning, we're going to keep it super simple today, which would mean really not using our Designer Pro tool all that much, which allows you to really start experimenting and exercising more control with things like positioning and alignment. So when you're in our Designer Pro tool, for example, that would allow you to use a positioning tool to do things like floating elements left and right, or even resizing their width to update the relative sizing and positioning. Now, another way of doing it that's a little bit more simple, if you don't have the time to learn that more advanced design tool, what I recommend doing, what I find myself doing a lot, is saying, you know what, maybe this isn't the right content block for me. Let me see what else Splash has in terms of predefined blocks. There's probably something in here that has already been designed that will save me from having to, again, reinvent the wheel. So the easy answer is, hey, let's take a look at the block library and see if there's any great content blocks there. The more advanced way of doing things, if you want to pursue a bit more education or just learn on your own, the Designer Pro tool does allow you to change the positioning of certain elements and really, if you want, start substantially remixing your site. Okay, I think we're just about at the end today. Let me check the other questions. Okay, yeah, this is going to be our last question here, because we're just about at the top of the hour. And I know there's a lot of questions that were asked in the chat. Hopefully you're getting answers. Sorry I wasn't able to verbalize every single one that came in, but I do appreciate those who handed these to us in advance. So Lucy asks, do you have a haiku for the audience? I think this came up with the last one too. So yeah, Splash users, in my opinion, you have the tools to be great. So it is now the top of the hour. I will say, as I always do, life is a series of hellos and goodbyes. I'm afraid for now, this is goodbye. Until next time, this is Zach saying, Zcrest out. Bye, everyone.